A decision has been taken to hold the International Group of Eminent Persons for a World Without Nuclear Weapons, a second meeting from the 4th of April to the 5th of April in Tokyo. And it will be chaired by Professor Takashi Shiraishi, who is the chair, and then there'll be 4 Japanese. And from nuclear and non-nuclear states, there'll be 6 foreign members who will be meeting in person, and 5 foreign members will be meeting, taking part in the meeting online. And since preparation has been made, coordination has been made with the UN with regard to the Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons, Japan will be contributing $10 million, 1.08 billion yen. The fund is such that we will have leaders from both countries, nuclear and non-nuclear states, and they will be exposed, they will have an experience of exposure to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki exposure situation of the bomb, and we hope that they will create a global network toward the eradication of nuclear weapons of the younger people, and so that the fund will be maximum in terms of its effect. We'd like to continue to cooperate with the United Nations. At today's cabinet meeting, the white paper on development cooperation for 2022 was announced. I announced that we will be publicizing the white paper on development cooperation for 2022. The white paper is an introduction to Japan's development cooperation activities over the past year. The white paper opens a special feature in part 1, which introduces Japan's initiatives in response to the situation in Ukraine, including emergency and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine and neighboring countries and support for stability and construction in Ukraine. ODA is one of the most important tools of diplomacy, and its importance is growing as the world is at a turning point in history. The government intends to further expand and strategically and effectively utilize ODA, and amid discussions on the revision of the development cooperation framework, will continue to actively promote efforts to achieve the SDGs and realize the principles of the FOIP through this white paper, while seeking greater understanding and support from the public for development cooperation. The government will continue to actively promote efforts to achieve the SDGs and realize the FOIP principles.
Now, opening remarks number 3 is that in response to the earthquake that struck southern Turkey on March 14th of 2022, that in accordance with the International Emergency Relief Act, Japan self-defense forces aircraft were dispatched to Pakistan to transport emergency relief supplies to Turkey, including tents and others located in Pakistan. This is following a request from Turkey, a member of NATO, as well as NATO, requested to Japan, a partner country of NATO, to cooperate in transportation by SDF aircraft. And this is the first international emergency relief operation conducted in cooperation with NATO. Japan will continue to provide necessary assistance in cooperation with NATO and international organizations while utilizing our expertise and knowledges as an earthquake-prone country. Now, I will make the remarks number 4. On April 13th, U.S. local time, the leaders of Australia, the United Kingdom, the United States issued an AUKUS joint statement announcing Australia's plan for the acquisition of nuclear submarines with a conventional payload. The statement also stated that this plan is based on the 3 countries' non-proliferation commitments and that they will continue to hold discussions with IAEA. As the foundations of the international order is wavering and the regional security environment is increasingly severe, AUKUS initiative will contribute to the peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. Japan consistently supports the AUKUS initiative. In today's Australia-Japan teleconference-based summit, Prime Minister Kishida conveyed this message to Prime Minister Albanese. And towards the realization of a free and open Indo-Pacific, we will continue to strengthen cooperation in various ways in our allies, the United States and Australia and other like-minded countries and the United Kingdom, with whom we are advancing various forms of cooperation in security and defense.
We'll be taking questions. Please state your name and affiliation before you raise your question. Ueda-san from Kyodo News. Ueda from Kyodo News. With regard to the launch of DPRK missiles, this morning on the Japan sea side, a short distance ballistic missile, two of these have been launched. And this is in response to the large-scale military exercise which is underway between ROK and U.S. There is a slated meeting between the summit of the two countries, Japan and ROK. Could you state your comments on this, please? With regard to North Korea's launch of missiles, and I'm aware of what the ROK government has said. With regard to the nature and details of this, I would like to refrain from mentioning this because of the nature of this event. The missiles have been launched at an unprecedented pace by DPRK, and it's a major and imminent threat, and it wavers the safety and peace of the region. So there's no way we can condone this. We would like to closely coordinate between Japan and the United States and cooperating with the international society toward the complete implementation of the UN resolutions. We would like to aim for denuclearization of DPRK. With regard to the visit of Prime Minister Yoon, from the 16th of 17th, the President and his wife will be visiting Japan. And with regard to the nature of the summit talks, at the present point in time, I would not mention this in making prejudgments about what will be discussed. Araya-san from Hokkaido Shimbun, please.
This is Araya of Hokkaido Shimbun. In regard to the visits of the visits to the Northern Territory for paying respect to their ancestry. And Prime Minister Kishida said that the visit to the Northern Territory is very important. From Japanese point of view, are you requesting to the Russian government? Are there anything specific that you've discussed before? Now, for the Four Islands exchange of the people and other visits to the Northern Territory, that is one of the priorities vis-a-vis the Japan-Russia relations. And because of the aggravation of the Japan-Russia relations due to the Russia's invasion to Ukraine, and because of the COVID for the last 3 years, we were not able to conduct the visits to Northern Territory, but we'd like to resume this as early as possible. All of the programs, including the visit to Northern Territory, we'd like to go through the embassy channels, and we are exchanging diplomatically. Thank you.
Iwasawa-san, NHK, please. Iwasawa, NHK, on Brazil immigration procedures. According to some reports, after October, for those on tourism from Japan to Brazil, Brazil has decided that visa acquisition will be necessary. What is the specific nature of this, and what is your take on this, and how will you be working on the Brazilian government regarding this issue? The Brazilian government has decided to suspend what has been introduced since 2019, when people enter the country from Japan, United States, and Canada for short-term purposes. The short-term visa waiver was applied, but from a reciprocity standpoint, they will suspend this. The COVID situation is winding down, and going forward, there will be an increase of tourists to Brazil from Japan. And in terms of increased convenience regarding business, there was a lot of expectations about the contributions that this would make to further development of bilateral exchanges. In any case, we would like to continue to work and consult with Brazil regarding people exchanges and economic exchanges promotion.
Which-san of Asahi Shimbun. Uechi of Asahi Shimbun. Now, because of the involvement of China, Iran and Saudi Arabia have agreed to normal diplomatic relations, and also Xi Jinping will visit Russia and had a meeting with President Putin, and also Zelensky, Prime Minister, that Mr. Xi will meet. And how China is exercising its power and influencing over the diplomatic relations internationally. What is your take on the situation? As I mentioned earlier, many countries versus China, that there are some development, and Japan is paying close attention to all these developments. But I would rather not to make any specifics about what media reports have been made in regard to the third countries' relations. And on that note, in regard to the normalization of the diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia, I believe that Japan will welcome this development for establishing peace and stability in Middle East.
Takeuchi-san, Mainichi Shimbun, please. Takeuchi, Mainichi Shimbun. From the 19th, Prime Minister will be visiting India. This is about 2 weeks after you visited India in March. So there's a very short interval. India is strengthening its moves to lead the global south of emerging countries and developing countries in the southern hemisphere. What is your thinking on the importance of India? International society is facing a major crisis one after another, and the G7 presidency is held by Japan, and the meeting with the G20 president India is extremely important. We attach significance of this, and when I visited India, I met with Foreign Minister Jai Shankar, and we confirmed that we would closely liaise as presidents of respectively G7 and G20. As G7 president, we are attaching significance to strengthening our relationship with the Global South. In January of this year, the Global South Summit was hosted by India, and we believe that the coordination with these countries is extremely important. When the Prime Minister visits India, this will be borne in mind to deepen discussions. Foreign Minister has something scheduled after this, so we'd like to close the press conference at this point. Thank you very much.